Today's show is brought to you by the word skepticism.
All right, little one. It's time to have your cod liver oil.
Grandmama, do I have to?
Don't be so rude. It's good for you. Open up. There's a good boy. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thanks for joining me here in MACLAND. Now, even thousands of years ago, cod liver oil, that's the oil from the liver of a codfish, was referenced in being used for medicinal purposes. And in Norway and Scotland at the time, it was considered a delicacy. And I remember, even as a little kid, reading stories by Roald Dahl or Paul Jennings or some young author, that the characters in their books were forced to eat cod liver oil because it had some kind of, I don't know, healing properties or something that was supposed to be good for you. Supposed to be good for you. That brings us to our word of the day. Skepticism. Now, to be skeptical is to be doubtful or to ask questions that lead to a higher truth. Now, here in MACLAND, we've decided to test out the healing properties of cod liver oil. And I've got a little experiment to do. But to do it, we've got to jump down to the basement. So let's go. Right, so here we are down in the basement. And I've got all the things I need to set up an experiment to see if cod liver oil actually does have any healing properties. Let's check it out, shall we? Come on over. Right, so as you can see here, I've got just a small amount of equipment. I've got my cod liver oil that I've put into this 1 litre beaker. I've got some gloves, safety goggles, a hammer, a little glass test tube, and just some cleaning equipment around here. So what I'm going to do now is scrub up and get ready. So here we are with the little experiment set up. We've got our litre beaker of cod liver oil, got our test tube and a hammer, and I'm decked out in my PPE. What I'm going to do is I'm going to smash this little test tube, put it into the cod liver oil, give it a mix up, and see if the reported healing values of cod liver oil actually live up to what they are. Can you heal a broken little test tube? Let's just put a paper towel over this to stop the fragments flying everywhere and give it a little smash. There you are. Let's scoop those up and put them all in. In they go. Give it a little stir. And let's have a, yeah. Test tube is back to its original self. Cod liver oil. Go drink yours now. Now, I can tell you that there was no camera trickery involved in that experiment, but do you believe that the oil from the liver of a cod is genuinely able to do that? Are you doubtful? Do you have reservations? Are you at all skeptical?
Hopefully, the answer is yes. And if it is yes, there's a name given to skeptical sort of thinking and coming up with questions to test if things are true or not. It's called a scientific way of thinking. That's science. Coming up with ideas and then asking questions and seeing if those ideas are correct or not, and then testing a different way. And the more questions you ask will lead you to an actual answer. What are some of the questions you could ask me about that experiment, do you think? Put a comment down below if you can think of a really pertinent question. Now, the reason why skepticism or being skeptical is the thought we're exploring here in MACLAND today is because more and more I see the media exploiting people and trying to get them to believe in things that maybe aren't altogether as scary or as hard-hitting or as outrageous as they would like you to believe. Here are some kind of similar type scenarios.
Yes, good morning and welcome to CBPS MAC News, the most reliable news on the internet, the news you can trust because all other news is fake news.
Excuse me, dude, just because you're saying that doesn't mean I'm going to believe it, and already I'm a little bit skeptical if you're putting everyone else down.
Yes, well, our leading story tonight. Current surveys suggest that only one student in our entire school actually likes chocolate.
One, I'm skeptical. Things like this go on all the time in the media, and you have to be careful to put what they're saying into context and think of a question that's going to maybe explain what these statistics are suggesting. Hey, how many people were in this survey?
2.
See what I mean? You got anything else?
Yes. Our second story, moving swiftly along, states that only 1% of pupils would like to have a mufti day in the future. Just 1%. We're thinking of cancelling them altogether.
1%? Again, let's try and figure out what's going on here and ask some questions. How many people were in this survey?
There were 100 people asked, in fact.
And what were they asked exactly?
The actual question was, would you come to school in mufti if you had to pay £15?
See what I mean? You got to dig deeper and figure out what's going on and what's behind the actual numbers that are reported. You've got one last headline, don't you?
Yes, our final headline of the day says that England is celebrating after tests show it has more sunny hours per day than the rest of the countries in the world.
England has more sunny hours per day than, like, Australia.
Yes, that is correct.
Skeptical. Who did this test?
It was a group named the Sunny Measurers Group.
And how many people in this group?
Just one member, and his name's Jeff. I don't have a surname.
How are the hours of daylight measured in Australia?
Well, all
sunny hours were tallied up across a whole year, then divided by 365 to give the number of sunny hours per day on average. That sounds pretty logical. Hang on a minute, how were they measured in England? Well, it says here that Jeff was outside on August the 2nd and he counted that there were 14 hours of sunshine in that one day. Great. So the actual headline should be, a guy named Jeff counted up all of the hours it was sunny in one summer's day in England, and that happened to be more than the average for Australia. That's a great headline. Yes, well, that was the CBPS MAC news, and I quit. Now, the message I'm trying to impart to you is not just to disregard all of the news or to not believe all of the things you see and not listen to the things that you hear, but rather to employ a more scientific method and be a little bit skeptical of what it is you're seeing and hearing and being told, and to think and use your brain to question what you're seeing and hearing and being shown. And that way you might actually get to a more truthful answer. Now, in the case of cod liver oil, scientists back in the 18th century found that it actually had lots of vitamin D in it, and it was helping people. Scientists more recently, and nutritionists, have found that it's packed with vitamin A and has got lots of omega-3 fatty acids and much less saturated fat than lots of other oils. So indeed, it is healthy for you. But what about the experiment with the test tube? I hear you cry out at me. Well, I'm going to jump back into the basement right now and show you something else, and hopefully you can begin to develop a hypothesis, an idea about what exactly might have been going on. So here we go, a similar setup now. We've got our 1 litre beaker, and I've got a smaller beaker here as well, and I've also got my vegetable oil here. Don't always believe what you are told, just regular vegetable oil. I'm going to take my small beaker, place it inside, and then I'm simply going to pour this vegetable oil into the small beaker and let it overflow, and hopefully you'll be able to see something that happens. So you just see the oil going in like normal, and then watch what happens as it spills over the edges. What on earth is going on? The case of the disappearing beaker. Is it magic? There's a perfectly good explanation, and you may still have questions, and that's a good thing, because now you can go and test things out for yourself. Thanks for joining me here in MACLAND today, and whatever you do, keep learning, keep reading, keep being creative, be skeptical, and I'm going to leave you with this thought. The human brain has evolved over millennia. You have one of these brains, one of the most complex machines the planet has ever seen. As you progress through your lives, may you use this machine to be skeptical and think creatively and think scientifically, so that you can discern and make sense of the world that you live in. Think.